Everyone, I am back again. I'm going to twist my camera up just for a second. Yes, we are back again. Oh gosh, you're not getting my face. You're getting the top of my nose. We had some folks come in, so I did need to take care of my customers. And now we are back able to do our live. So give me just a second to wake everything up so that I can find myself here and we can go back to the... Fortunately, we hadn't really started anything yet because they popped in right when... Okay, good. And my video's up. They popped in right when I was getting ready to... Oh, come on. Right when I was getting ready to start. So you didn't even get a chance to do a single thing. So we're going to start completely from scratch now. We're going to put the camera down. If you remember what we were doing, we're using our brand new stencils that I made on my Cricut Maker. We're using our Roberson's liquid glass, and we're doing a little chinoiserie table. So let me turn this down, make sure that I'm not going to tip over my tripod here. I had this all set up perfectly before. And further. And yeah, there we go. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we are able to see everything and that it's all in frame so you can see exactly what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to move these because these are not the ones we're using yet. This is our little birds on a cherry blossom branch stencil that I cut for this. And we're going to start by peeling off the backing and then placing it here on the piece of furniture and then pulling that off, and then we're going to paint. So again, if you've seen me do this at all this week, you see I pull this completely perpendicular. I burnished this very, very well, so we should not have any pulling up issues. But in case we do, I don't want to add extra tension to the surface. I just want to roll this off and have it come off nicely, and that did that very well. That silicone back paper there, so we have to be paying attention to it. Okay, I had this carefully placed. I want to make sure I get it centered the way I want it. Okay, then you take it and you give it a good rub down on your surface. You want to remove any bubbles under the stencil adhesive. And this is cut on the same stencil vinyl you saw me use yesterday when I was foiling the, I need a little knife, when I was foiling the reindeer bag. Now, obviously, I didn't make this as crazy a stencil because that's not an appropriate one for the chinoiserie, but we're going to pull this up, and we have a couple bomber flies flying through here, and it's making me nuts. They've been here all day, just flying across everything I've been doing. Ugh, so annoying. So again, I'm rolling this back. If I pull this up straight like this, while it seems to be well adhered, I could be causing this to pull up or pull and stretch. I want to roll it back so I don't put that kind of tension on it. Pull it off like that, and there's our stencil. Okay, make sure I have it cleared so that if anybody has questions, I can see them when I look over there. We're going to set my knife to the side. Okay, I've got my little styrofoam plate. As I said earlier today, I apologize for using styrofoam. I know it's not eco-friendly. I just happen to sort of inherit a bunch of these. I need to give this paint a little shake. Now, normally stenciling is easiest with a thicker paint. However, because we're using these adhesive stencils, we are far less likely to have bleeding and I will still use appropriate stenciling techniques to make sure that I don't, you know, because you can see there's brush, if you look closely here, you can see my hand brush strokes here. So that will create little tiny lifts, and I don't want any bleeding. So clearly you load the brush, and then we're going to single load the brush, but we're going to do this in a clouded technique the same way I did yesterday with that deer bag. And I'm just going to kind of go over different spots. This will need very likely 2 coats of color, because as you can see, since it is not a stencil paint and it's not super thick and opaque when I apply it this way, I'm going to want to intensify the color, which is really easy to do since I don't have to pick up this stencil and move it around. It's very simple for me to just leave the stencil on and apply more paint, because I don't want it a faint pattern on here. I want it nice and rich. So I'm going to offload on my apron a little bit. You can laugh at me because I do it that way. This is what part of the reason all my aprons look so messy. Yeah, these 2 colors, because when they're applied thin like this, look almost the same. That's why I know I'm going to need a second layer to get that deeper blue looking deeper. Because right now they look virtually the same on here, and that's not going to be what I want to have happen. But I do want to let this dry a little bit. I'll come back in with a little blue, darker blue, before I go and put on another stencil. But if I don't let this dry a little bit, coming back over it with more paint and the way I'm using my brush will actually kind of scrub the paint up, and I don't want that to happen. So we're going to grab a little more dark blue. I'm going to put a little more on here, because this will help me double up the colors to begin tomorrow, because I'm going to leave this overnight and I will double up my colors tomorrow so that this has got plenty of time to dry and I'm not re-wetting it. But now you can see a little more separation of the colors. There, geez, what is with the bugs flying around here today? Honestly. The fruit flies too, and I don't have any fruit. But we do have an ice cream store next door, so sometimes we get visits from their fruit flies. Yes, I know, how exciting and charming. All right, let me put all of this to the side so I can put this up on the table. Hi, Donna, nice to see you. All right, I'm giving you fair warning because now I'm gonna start moving things, and I know for some people it's uncomfortable to see all this stuff move around when I have to move the tripod and the furniture and everything. So if you get a little queasy, beware, that's what's happening. All right, so let's move this over here. Yes, you get to see all the stuff that's sitting on here. Get everything out of the way. I always keep a little denatured alcohol in some sort of spray bottle around so that we can clean up any mishaps. Now, I haven't recovered my little table here, so I keep a couple rags around to protect the furniture pieces. And up we go with this. This is going to be wobbly and bangy, and I'm apologizing for that now. Let's see. Let me see. I might have to lower this a bit so that you all can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to turn this into the light. So you can actually see. I do love having a furniture turnstile here. Now let's see if you can see what I'm doing. I think you can, so here's some extra. Here, not extras, these are the ones. Now, these will go up against the back, but I have another one of these still to put onto my piece here. And actually what I'm going to do is grab a scissor because I want to straighten out that edge. Let me think about how to do this better because I'm not loving this angle. I think it's a little awkward both for me to work at and for you to see. So we're going to move the camera back a little bit. I'm going to angle it up and then I'm going to see how well you're seeing. And probably move this. There we go. There we go. I think that's a little better so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is I need to trim the edge of my stencil here because you can see it's different. Well, maybe I don't want to do that because that actually gives me the right spacing from the back. So let me just make sure that I'm cut really neatly along the top line there, and that will help me. Now again, I'm going to take the backing paper, roll it off a bit so I can get started. And this one's a little different since I know pretty much where everything has to lay. Come in here. Should be about right. And that rolled out just perfectly. And if you look here, you can see I have an almost perfectly straight line right there too. So that worked really nicely. Grab my knife that fell on the ground, give this a rub. Oh, of course it doesn't want to separate because I'm doing this on camera. I've got to lift the backing film. There we go. Almost got it. Okay. And again, we're going to roll this completely perpendicular. That will give me the correct space, the correct layout. And again, this will stay on all night tonight because I'm going to come back and do more colors on it later. So we're going to stencil that now. Whoop! Almost threw it across the room. So let me bring this in a little bit. Angle it down. Let me make sure you all can see it. So, see if I've got any questions. Stand by for a second. Hi, Mary Beth. Thank you. And Teresa and Desiree and Donna and Catherine, thank you all for popping in. I appreciate it. So again, we're using the same two colors we had before. The liquid metal in deep blue and blue pearl. And I'm going to come in and again, as I said earlier, these are not stencil paints, so they're not going to go on as opaque as they might if I use something thicker, but these are the specific paints and colors I want to use for this client's piece, which is why we're leaving the stencils on overnight. so that the paint has a chance to dry and I can come in and put more on tomorrow to deepen the color. And I will very likely come in and hand paint into this. I usually do on stuff like this. Because what you'll, as you saw up on top, when we apply these two colors together, especially when they're both being applied thinly like they are here with the stenciling, they look very, very similar. So to get more contrast out of them, I have to have more color. Like I said, when it's this first layer, you can almost not even tell them apart. Which is why on top, and why I'm going to do again the same thing here. I'm going to come in and put a little more of the deep blue on here just to give it a little definition. Although I can tell just from the difference in the colors on the backing, I want to actually be able to see a little difference, you know, right now, because it'll dry lighter and darker, so I can find them a little more easily tomorrow. And again, like I said, I will not put a second coat on today because this swirling motion that I do on fresh paint can lift it as much as it will deposit it if I come back at this too quickly. So right now I'm just kind of filling in a few spots I might have missed. And we're going to leave it like that, and then I'm going to start putting on the pattern in the background. Again, let me check and see if there's anybody who has some questions. Hi, Lori. Nice to see you here. No, everybody's getting this, so obviously I'm not confusing anyone. I'm proud of myself for that today. I'm so good at confusing people. All right, so now we have these to put on. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to stagger them across my background, I want to give my grid here a little trim, and so I can go use this as my side measure. So I think what I'm going to do is just trim down this straight line right here. Having this grid on this transfer tape is really, really helpful, and I'm sorry when I do stuff off camera that you don't see, but sometimes it's awkward for me to peel things off. Because you can see when I have to do it this way, it's not flat. Sometimes things want to pull up a little, and that's not what you want to have happen. You want to be careful, and you want to mount these. Okay, so that's good. Let's peel it off. I'm going to try to mount the whole thing. Now, that's going to be an awkward angle. I'm sorry. I'm going to go a little wider in my view so you can see what I'm doing. But I have got to do this in such a way that, let's pull that camera up a little bit, and maybe we'll slide it out. That you see me doing the whole background. But I kind of have to get in there a little bit. So the first thing I want to do is peel this off. And see, I'm going to burnish that as well. Normally I would have this thing flat on its back to be doing this, kind of laying out the stencils, but that is a very awkward way to film. I know, I've tried. That. And get rid of all of the backing tape and stuff. Get it way out of your way, because it will catch on whatever you're doing and make a hell of a mess. I'm speaking from experience. Okay, so I want to put that one in here, which means I probably want to come and lift this just a little bit. Come on, lift just a little, because I'm going to trim it. Now that I see how this is going to lay out, I want to make sure that it's trimmed not just on one side, but on both sides, so I don't have any strange overlap. All right, so this side, I want to cut to here. And this side, I definitely want to come in and bring that shorter so that it does not do any odd overlapping. So I'm going to set this down on the table, make sure I give it a little rub, and I'm going to peel the backing off down a little lower so I have a little more control over rolling it off. There we go. Okay, there we go. Nice layout. Another one. Another one here. Let's do this. Oops, I didn't cut that very straight. To make sure you cut it straight, because otherwise you won't be using it very well to line up on the other side. Let me pull this off. Oh, come on, give me an edge here. Many of you who are watching are probably familiar with one time used stencils through a company called Modelo, Royal Design Studio. Made tons of these for years. And actually they still do. Lower that just a little bit. Make sure my spacing is right. Let me take a look. Good here. Peel that off. I should have peeled this one off too. I got a little ahead of myself. I got to peel the backing tape off of this one, or the transfer tape off of this one. And I'm dropping things. Oh, I'm a genius today. There we go. Now it's going to lift this piece of stencil just a little bit. No big deal. Peeled it off. Get some transfer tape lifted here. Felt that lift and then it fell back down and stuck. take a look at it my way. I think I might want to reposition these a little bit. And yes, you can do that like once or twice. You don't want to do it too often because it makes a heck of a mess. So I'm sorry if you're getting this from the side, but I'm going to come in, I'm going to lift this, and if I'm careful, I can peel it off, roll it back without damaging it. And if I damage it, then I cut more. Just being very, very gentle when I take it off. Because they weren't positioned quite right. So I got the whole thing off. I'm going to very carefully stick it up here. See, this one, because I was doing it from the side, I didn't get them on as straight as I thought I was. And quite frankly, I want them a little closer together too. So I'm going to have to trim a few things to make that work. Shocker. This doesn't work on every stencil vinyl. This is working on this one because I haven't pushed it down hard yet. I didn't really work hard to get it stuck to the surface. Okay, going gently, 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 gently. Got that one off, no damage. Now, let's see if I can get the third one off without damaging it. That would be miraculous. Okay. I do have another one, but the point was I wanted 4 on here. I'll take a look at this. Actually, this one can stay where it is. I just needed to move the other two. All right, give me just a second because I'm going to have to play with this a little bit. I need to lift this up. I know this isn't facing the camera well, but this is part of my job. And since this is a client piece, I really do have to pay attention to how I lay this out. Okay, so I need to cut that right there. And then I'm going to need to place this up higher so that it pretty thoroughly. There we go. There we go. We've got that back on there. Just a little push right there. Probably push right there. And then we're going to put this one back on. And I need to make sure I trim this corner again so that it's a little higher up. I'm going to trim here. Because I have a fourth one that needs to get in here. That means laying these three out spaced the right way. There we go. And let's get the fourth one. Here's my fourth one. And again, I'm going to trim this. Shorten this side. I need to trim right there. And that will sit in right here, which is exactly the spacing I wanted. Now the other thing I should share with you is to fill out what's going to be these blank spaces. I have cut cherry blossoms and they will balance all of this out. So it won't be just these little pagodas and boats sitting as, you know, blank spots here on the back of this table. It's going to be a completed pattern. All right. And there we go. Now I'm going to turn that back to the camera so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to get all of these transfer tapes and everything out of the way. And see, even sometimes I do a lot of stuff eyeballed, so it's not surprising that sometimes I have to do that. Hey, Lori Jackson, nice to see you here. And Jennifer Payne, thanks for popping in. Okay, I'm going to go back because I stepped away over here for a second to read the comment. Need to have a little beverage. And here we go. So like I said, this is all going to be one coat today. Let it dry tonight. Make sure my brush is sufficiently offloaded so I don't have it shedding any crumbles. Okay, and as you're going to notice, I'm going to use my right hand on this. I'm very fortunate that when I'm doing something like this, I can be ambidextrous. I'm very lucky that way. I can't do it with, you know, a lot of fine skills, but my grandmother was ambidextrous too, so this is not like a shocking thing to me. She was actually born left-handed, but came from that era where, you know, they used the ruler on your hand to make you right-handed. So she was very, very ambidextrous, and I was born left-handed, but as the oldest kid of a bunch of right-handed people, I learned to use everybody else's right-handed stuff. And I learned this in school too, because all the left-handed scissors were awful. So I learned to use right-handed scissors in my left hand. I learned to be able to use my right hand for certain things. When I played golf, I played golf pretty much right-handed. I just learned to adapt, and fortunately I was able to do that. My sister, who is also left-handed, was so left-handed she could not adapt at all. She couldn't even eat, she couldn't even eat with her right hand. So at the dinner table, if we went out to dinner, we had to sit so that she was on my left-hand side. Otherwise, we'd bang arms and elbows all through a meal. She actually completely ate left-handed. All table manners were reversed for her. My parents gave up. My mother was, anybody who's ever met my mother knows my mother was like a total manners maniac. And she even gave up on my sister because my sister was so unable to manage anything in her right hand. Food would fly across the table, all of that stuff. Also, she was the younger kid, so all the stuff they gave me as the hard time with as a kid, as the firstborn, by the time Whitney rolled around, they were like, oh God, I'm not fighting this battle again. I was always able just to kind of bounce back and forth. It was never really a problem. Okay, let's get this in here. And we're going in with the light blue now. Not that you can tell. Because this pearl right now and the dark blue will look exactly the same when I've got it thinned out like this. So I'll come back in with just a little more of the deeper blue on there just to help me out with it tomorrow. Okay, let's make sure that everything covered. Offload my brush on my apron again. It makes my apron very pretty and shiny. I'll take a little more of the deeper blue. And I'll come back in here with a few spots and just, because if I make it, like I said, if I make it a little darker now, the definition will even be better tomorrow when I put a second layer on there. Of course, when we take this off, it'll have a beautiful mottled tone. Now, I could double load the brush, meaning I could take my brush and put light on one side and dark on the other, but as you can see, because these colors are so close, I knew this would be a bad idea to do that way. We'd get a very poor result from doing that way. So I'm literally going to just go wet on wet with this again tomorrow. All right, so I've laid these out. Once I pull these tomorrow, we're gonna put in our cherry blossoms. They'll fit in here. We'll probably put some more of them in here. I'll probably have to cut some more because I cut 6 and I probably need 8 or 10. So that might be my other project for tomorrow. All right, everybody, let me swing the camera back to me and swing up so you're looking at me, I hope. And checking my camera just to make sure you're seeing me. All right, everybody, thank you for giving me your time on this Friday afternoon. I may or may not be live tomorrow. We have our end of the month block party out in front of my studio. They close it off and play bands all day. And honestly, the bands because I'm not far from the bandstand, the bands get so loud we can't always have a camera running while they're playing because you can't always hear over it. But maybe I'll be able to do it, catch a break during the day, and I'll be able to do it then. Thank you for coming by today. Don't forget, we are in the last few days of July's product of the month, which is glitter. Any glitter product on our website, use the code GLITTER20 at checkout and you will receive 20% off all your glitters. It's an awesome deal. We have tons of glitters. Take advantage of it. All right, everyone, have a great weekend and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.